Hello there, I'm Adam Neely, and welcome to Question and Answer Time. I'm answering your questions about bass and music in general, so let's begin.
Question and Answer Time with
Would you say that 5-string basses are a new standard? How often do you encounter a situation where you really need that low B?
I wouldn't say that it's an absolute essential for everybody, but there are plenty of situations that I've been in where I really want that low B string. Any kind of modern pop, any kind of modern rock, any salsa or merengue music really needs the sound of the low B string, because it's not just the low notes, it's the timbre of the low B string. Because I could normally just take my 4-string and throw on an octave pedal and get those low notes, no problem, but it's really the sound of the low B string that a lot of styles of music really require and really want. You really need that, basically. So yeah, there are plenty of situations where I use my 5-string right there, instead of the 4-string that I normally have on this channel.
Would be interested to know your thoughts on reverse stringing, such as Mono Neon does. I haven't tried it myself, and I think standard string order is just too ingrained for me. But in a lot of ways, it seems more efficient, more so for bass than guitar, I think.
So the way that reverse stringing comes about is when you have a left-handed bass player taking right-handed bass, which are a lot more common than left-handed basses, and flipping it upside down so that the strings are in reverse order, and just learning how to play it that way. And you have guitar players like Jimi Hendrix, who's left-handed. He flipped over a right-handed Stratocaster, but then strung it so that he would be able to play it normally. A lot of bass players, for whatever reason, end up just playing it with the reverse string order. Jimmy Haslip, who used to be the bass player for the Yellow Jackets, is a very famous example. Mono Neon, of course, is a great example of this, left-handed bass player who plays reverse. I've noticed that there's some weird things that happen with slapping and popping, because normally I like to think of my thumb as being the sort of the bass player, bass thing. But he's definitely worked out some cool stuff on it. He's an incredible player. If you want to get this effect as a right-handed bass player, just take a left-handed bass and flip it upside down. I have a couple left-handed students, and I do that occasionally. It's not as hard as it is, or you might think it is, to get used to it. I'm not sure if there's any particular advantage to it. I'm sure there might be, but I just haven't spent much time with reverse stringing, so who knows?
Hey Adam, what are your thoughts on Piccolo bass strings and other weirder string types like nylon strings for bass by Diadario?
So truth be told, Piccolo bass strings are not really my thing. If you don't know what Piccolo bass strings are, they're basically bass strings which are designed to be tuned up an octave from your regular E, A, D, G from your bass. It basically makes them the bottom 4 strings of a guitar. And yes, there are a lot of timbral differences between playing a piccolo bass and a guitar, but it's pretty much a guitar. Yes, you do have interesting solo bass players like Xander Zahn and Grant Stinnett who are doing some pretty cool, interesting things, but to me that's kind of a niche thing, doing solo piccolo bass. And if you're trying to play in an ensemble, honestly, it just sounds better on guitar. Yes, you do have really cool bass players like Foley, who played in Miles Davis's band in the 80s. He played lead bass with Marcus Miller playing regular bass. Foley played piccolo bass, and he played it with a pick. And essentially, it sounded pretty cool, but it sounded like a guitar to me. So if you're going to do that sort of thing and play in an ensemble, I would just play guitar. If you're trying to do soloistic type things, yeah, I guess there's a little bit of room for you on piccolo bass strings. As far as nylon tape wound strings go, or nylon strings, I used to have nylon core strings, which are kind of different, on my acoustic bass, and I did a couple videos with them, and I liked the sound of them, but they kind of felt like rubber bands to me. If you're just talking about nylon tape wounds, they're essentially the same thing as flat wounds. Kind of a thumpy sound. There's a little bit of a different feel, but yeah, hope that answered your question.
What are your thoughts on your most famous video from 7 years ago in which you were doing some solo stuff with capping on a 7-string? Do you feel like you've changed? I get the feeling that you went from crazy chops to something more solid with the P bass.
Okay. So this video that you're talking about was from 2006. I was 17 years old, I was in high school. I just got my 7-string bass. I really wanted to learn to tap all sorts of really cool, interesting things on bass and translate piano repertoire to bass in ways that hadn't really been done before. Posted that, tons of views, yay. Eventually I decided that I kind of wanted to move away from 7-string bass, and for a couple reasons. The first reason is tapping on the instrument, which was my main thing, and the reason why I got it. God, it just didn't sound very good. It sounds very clunky. It sounded to me then, it still sounds to me now. Tapping can sound very clunky, it doesn't sound very nuanced, there's not a lot of control. It just, I don't know, it's not for me. Yes, you do have instruments like the Chapman stick, which you can get a little bit more control, there's a little bit more nuance to the instrument, but by the point that I sort of discovered the Chapman stick, I was already onto greener pastures in bass playing. The other reason is, for number 2, I was kind of becoming known as the 7-string bass player, and I hated that. I really wanted to sort of be known for the music that I was making, not the instrument that I was playing, the weird 7-string instrument. So I ran as far away from the 7-string bass as I could. I got my 5-string, then eventually I got my 4-string P bass that you see in all my videos, and I haven't looked back since. And it's not that I don't have crazy chops. I definitely play all sorts of complicated things. It's just that the 7-string bass was a little bit too much for really what I wanted to do. It was a little bit too much of a statement, like, here's the instrument, here's the crazy instrument, versus the music being the statement for itself. I do know a lot of 7-string bass players that I really respect. There's a bass player by the name of Jonathan Stein, who's a crazy, amazing electronic music producer that also plays 7-string bass. He's a really phenomenal musician. But for me, 7 strings, and they're really not for me anymore. Yeah, interesting. Just a couple days ago, Gary Goodman posted this comment. And if you don't know who Gary Goodman is, he's a guy who played a 12-string bass 10 years ago and posted a video, and there's 2 million hits. And I'm really not quite sure why he posted this, but hey, I can't. Sure, why not?
I'm subscribed as hard as I can! What can I do as a viewer to best show support? Your videos are top-notch, very insightful, very open-minded. It's like having an intelligent music-based conversation with a friend. Cheers!
Honestly, at this stage in the game, just keep watching the videos, and if you want to share them on social media, Twitter, or Facebook, whatever, that would be awesome. The reason for this is that in the future, if I decide I want a sponsor for any of these videos, they'll see the engagement on my channel, and they'll see my subscribers, and they'll be more likely to want to work with me on that sort of thing. Eventually, also, I might want to start a Patreon. That might be a little bit further down the road. I kind of want to make sure that I have as strong a foundation before I start expanding in that regard. So just keep watching. Honestly, that's just in this market, which is super saturated with all sorts of kinds of content. If you just keep watching me, that's just the best way of doing it. So thanks again. Thanks for your question, guys. This has been question and answer time with Adam Neely. Yeah, these are great questions. Thanks so much for watching. And until next time, bass. Yeah.